We get a treat today. We get to hang out with the money man, Mark Miller. What's going on, Mark?
Well, not much. How are you doing, man?
The money man, Mark Miller. Really quickly, let's get into who you are and why you're hanging out with us today here in the Vast Voice telling business secrets to entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Well, I'm technically a business financial consultant, and I got in the financial industry years ago out of college. My first company I worked with was IDS American Express, that little tiny American Express company. And kind of on the retail, what we do now on the retail side of the business, learning all about that kind of in the brokerage world. And then over time, I just started to make really great relationships on what we call kind of the institutional or the smart money side.
Mhm.
Over the years and for the last 20 years or so, I've been fortunate to make a lot of relationships. And what I'm doing now, I'm working directly with the Hilton family, Brad Hilton in particular. That is the Hilton that you know of Hilton Hotels. Brad is the grandson of Conrad Hilton. And he and I are partners in a firm called Hilton Tax and Wealth Advisors, basically kind of just bringing very advanced wealth building, kind of smart money concepts, a little more down to Main Street, more average investors. I am also the manager of the Hilton Family Office, but nowadays we're spending a lot of time just, we have a passion, and Brad has a passion for, yeah, just teaching people and giving people access to these more advanced strategies that don't have to have, 10 or $20 million to invest in those type of things.
Yeah, I like that. That's important because here at vastsolutionsgroup.com, and we manage relationships with some pretty big investors. But at the same time, we're trying to bring, I guess, some of the services down to average mom and pop because those are the people who probably need it more than anyone.
Yes,
Plus, I
absolutely.
feel a lot better when I'm helping mom and pop, if you will. So I applaud what you're doing. That's huge. All right, so let me ask a few more questions. You have a very interesting gig. You've been around for a while. You know what a family office is. Developed a family office, at least a pretty darn good relationship with a big family name. So why don't we start at the beginning? Let's first kind of crawl before we can walk.
Mhm.
Define family office for us. What is a virtual family office and what is a family office?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, for those that don't know, the family office concept actually originally came from the Rockefellers. Everybody knows that name, right? So the Rockefellers, I think it was John D that was like, they had just a chaotic financial situation, and they had all these advisors all over the place, and they were all fighting with each other. And he came up with the concept, hey, let's just hire these people to work for us specifically. And they opened up the first family office, and within 5 years, they doubled their wealth. Because basically the whole concept of the family office is kind of all those minds getting together, communicating, and working towards a common goal for that family. So the original was an individual family office. Then over the years, it grew to a multi-family office. But kind of getting into the 21st century, it's developed in, and we believe one of the best models is what we call a virtual family office, where we're basically kind of a more of a boutique operation, smaller staff, but yet we're outsourcing to the best of the best in almost every area you can imagine in your personal finances. So that's the virtual family office, and that's the Hilton Family Office is a virtual family office.
I think that's smart because you might live in a big city, small city, wherever, and not have access to whatever great attorneys, great CPAs, or great financial advisors. But if there is one, let's say 3,000 miles away, you can still bring them in, especially with the technology of today, using technology, using whatever Gmeet or Zoom or whatever, and bringing their brain power closer to you. It's just basically you're one call away. That's huge.
Absolutely.
All right. I think thank you for that definition. So then how okay, let's say I'm a $50 million net worth individual.
hmm
What then? Who do I call? What do I do? How do I put one together? How do I call you guys at Hilton as an example?
Well,
I don't
if you're somebody that has 50 million and you're listening to this, I mean, our general barriers for entry into the family office, I mean, there's a whole qualification process, but generally 20 million plus. So you probably qualify to be in a family office, not necessarily just ours, but in a family office. But for us, then we go through a qualification process of an advisory board that looks at everybody. And there's a lot of other criteria that go into it to be kind of invited to the family office. But a family office would be the probably the best route to go to get the best cohesive advice and everyone kind of working in conjunction on your situation, specific situation itself. And again, the difference is, and we see this a lot. I mean, I've just brought on a gentleman around in that area that has kind of been on the retail side and didn't make the leap and didn't kind of know that he could get so much higher level service. But basically now he's going to come on board and we're going to be able to dive in, and our individual kind of just best in class folks are going to communicate about his specific situations together, as opposed to he's got like 7 different advisors. By the way, he has 2 financial advisors that are arguing with each other all the time. And because they're in totally different firms, and by the way, they don't want to talk to each other. Okay. That doesn't help anybody. I mean, even if you don't have $50 million, if you've only got $2 million, I mean, or million, it doesn't help anybody to, in our opinion, to have all these different advisors that aren't communicating and often are fighting with each other, one saying one thing and the other saying the other thing. Well, what does that do to the client? The client immediately is like, well, I'm just not going to do anything, right? Because this person says that, this person, it reminds me of the old, the joke Harry Truman once said, hey, I've got these economists and they're saying on one hand, you could do this, Mr. President. On the other hand, you can do this. And then he says, I would give my life for a one-handed economist. So, so it's like, but that's what happens to people a lot. I mean, when people first come in and we're working with them on with Hilton Tax and Wealth Advisors, often there is another advisor involved. And then that advisor saying, well, why are they recommending that? We think you should do this and all that. And it's just a very confusing and very perplexing situation for any individual investor.
I think sometimes having 2 different viewpoints might make sense because, the owner in let's say in this circumstance can determine which is best. But in general, you have to be working on all be on the same page. And uh,
Absolutely.
I think with family offices, if you've hit whatever 20, 50 million, like I mentioned, I think that you should be able to scale. You should be able to work as one team, have an attorney who's quote on staff and virtual. Same with the financial advisor, et cetera, because it makes so much more sense because you're
That
all
is the biggest concept of a family office, actually. And that was Brad and I's path with Hilton Tax and Wealth Advisor. That's a spinoff of the family office, is to say, how can we bring that kind of synergy a little more down to Main Street? Folks that you don't have to have that barrier to entry or whatever. And Brad definitely has a passion for that. He's like, how can I teach people all the stuff that the Hilton family has done for years, not just hotels and real estate, but lots of other things, to truly build a legacy type of wealth. And when I say legacy, again, legacy means different things to different people. I'm not saying that you got to have $10 million to have legacy, but everybody's at different levels. But going back to what I originally said is that one of the biggest components of that and building wealth efficiently is to have everybody working on a team that are all on the same page, helping you move forward.
Yep, that's exactly right. We ran a survey in our community, and these are people anywhere. Most of them have pretty good net worth. Let's say I don't know, probably minimum of $1 million, all the way up to we have a couple that are worth 750 million. But and for a family office, we're asking what's the biggest challenge for those that did have a family office, and a number of them said there are 3 components, 3 issues that they were fighting. General theme in this informal survey. Number 1, hiring of their family office or virtual family office. By the way, the individuals, that was their number 1 headache. By the way, right off the bat.
Yes.
Let's see if I can remember number 2. Number 2 was uh, succession planning, and number 3 was tax mitigation.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about those three things? Again, that was just an informal poll, but let's hopefully maybe you can shed some light into that, because that also impacts some of the mom, pa, and family offices that you know so much about. So let's go to number 1. What about the hiring as an example? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Well, that's again why we're kind of a virtual family office, because we don't have to worry about hiring 25 people to
Hmm.
run the various aspects of it because we're outsourcing so much. And then though, and the thing before we started today, you and I talked about, what's the likelihood that you're going to get the best investment advisor or the best tax person or the best like in your town. That I mean, like I'm talking about the best in the country, if not the world. Zero.
Yeah.
So the outsourcing, I think, works so much better because we've got the creme de la creme, best in class folks that we can bring on. And guess what? They're running their own operations. They're competent. They're good at what they do, and we don't have to worry about the headache of. Let me just give an example. If we an outsourced an attorney, say working in a specific area in estate planning, we don't have to worry about bringing that attorney on and not knowing whether that attorney is really going to be the best fit and going to be
Hmm.
able to provide the best services to our clients.
Hmm.
So and I'm not saying, and I do know because I do know some bigger family offices that have a lot of problems with turnover and getting quality people, and it's very difficult. A lot of family offices might, if it's a single family office, might might pull from their family themselves to bring people in. And then I kind of say the thing I don't like about that concept is, again, what is the likelihood that that family member is going to be the best in that particular area you have brought them in? Well, probably pretty much zero.
Yeah.
Um, so it's
By the way,
great.
then there's
Family
infighting.
member, and maybe,
That's a whole nother deal, by the way.
yeah, maybe you can trust them, but are they going to be the most competent and the best person in that particular area?
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, our answer to that would be AI. We believe in, I mean, someone could hire and hire and hire, which is great. We believe in that, obviously, keeps the economy going, et cetera. But at the same time, if you could utilize artificial intelligence to potentially make yourself more efficient, and, more
Yes.
power to you. And sometimes,
Yes.
AI can go a little bit further than people believe when it comes
It's
to hiring.
amazing. Yeah, we're on the cutting edge of a lot of that stuff. I just came from an event where it was all about AI, robotics, digital currencies, all the kind of new cutting edge stuff. And strangely enough, as a matter of fact, we just invested, and our clients did, in a very large bioscience company that's doing really, really well. And we were on a call with the CEO and a couple of the members, and they found some solutions that they have been working on for 10 years. Once AI got to the right point, AI helped them figure it out and figured out the technology and the therapeutics, all that needed to be done in like just a couple years. So it was almost like what they likened it to was having another 100 PhDs
Yeah.
on their board, on their advisory board.
Yeah, people used to laugh at me when I was talking about artificial intelligence. I remember I did a
Yeah.
presentation 2010, May 2010, 4 seasons in, or yeah, 4 seasons in Las Vegas. We only had 20 people come because it was AI and finance and tax. And
Yeah.
now I look like the smart
Like,
guy all of
what's
a sudden.
AI
Oh,
back then? What AI? What? That's the Terminator stuff, right?
That's exactly right. But
They're
AI
gonna
can
kill
go
us.
so far that, as I was talking about hiring and, not having to hire extra people, potentially bringing costs down to the end user client. Plus, for us, for tax liability, we've been using AI under our model called Einstein, and it's lowered tax liability in a big way. Anyway, all right, I
Yeah.
won't go into that. So, what about the number two issue we found that so many of our people had? Again, informal poll of our community called Vast Vault.
Yeah.
Telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. But what I would say is succession planning. What do you see in succession planning as it relates to, not only with the virtual office, but also maybe even the family patriarch or matriarch?
Yes. What I see is, it's tough. And you may concur with this. Succession planning is very complex. There's usually a lot of people involved, and it's a long-term process. And at least in our experience, where you're working 2, 3, sometimes 4 years to get everybody on board and on the same narrative. And uh, um, so succession planning, I would say for, if you're talking about the number two, number one, we don't have much issue with, but number two, succession planning, we do.
That's
Uh,
the hardest. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard. Yeah. I mean, it's very, very hard. I mean, I think we do a pretty good job at it. We can always do better. But I think it really goes back to what we were talking about earlier is like just really good communication, not just between advisors, but the family members, and making sure that everybody know, not cutting people out. We just had a conversation at this event and we did a panel about how important, and the Rockefellers were talking about this on the panel also, how important it is to for years everybody's ignoring the like spouses of the direct heirs, so to speak,
Mm,
and not thinking about them. Well, the heirs will tell them and all that. And well, really, we found, and a lot of people are finding more, is that you've got to bring those people on board too and make them feel like they're included and inclusive. Because if you don't, then inevitably it happens if there's enough family members in any family office relationship that all of a sudden somebody's going to come in because somebody passes away, they inherit a ton of money, and then they're coming in and they're rocking the boat massively because they're totally in the dark.
hmm
So that's a big thing with succession planning. That's something new that we're trying to integrate more. The Rockefellers are trying to integrate more, that they bring, all the family members in and make those people feel included. And that way, when something happens or a big, whether it's a big life event or especially a death, that they can cohesively still work with everyone and not cause a massive amount of problems to the family office.
Yeah, what we've started to try doing a little bit more proactively is having the heirs, the kids involved in the
Yes.
communication as you were on a quarterly basis, because we have this thing called Plan One, where we're trying to increase the communication with the kids. Especially, we're having some issues, by the way, with 20 something year old kids wanting to be involved in the process. They don't want to. So just like you're saying, I would say that's our number one issue with respect to those three, the three that, that were outlined in the quote, informal survey. So that's
Mhm.
interesting. You and I are in agreement. It sounds like it's communication and just, we're both having that same issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a great, because again, I think spouses of the direct heirs really get overlooked, and it's almost like they're an afterthought,
Yeah.
and they really shouldn't be. So we're encouraging our folks too. We need your spouse involved. And it
Yeah.
only makes sense. It really does, because the spouses, sometimes the spouses we hear all the time, well, hey, my wife said, or my husband said, we should do this or we should do that. And they're very forceful about it. And
hmm
it's like, okay, great. Well, let's involve them in this conversation. We don't necessarily agree with that, but let's have a conversation about it and see how we can come to some kind of happy medium or something. So,
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Yeah,
yeah.
that's you and I are in agreement. What about the number three issue, and that being tax mitigation for the entity itself or entities?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that one?
Massive. And, you say number three. I mean, I think that's number one because, I think, it's just proven time and time again that advanced tax mitigation just builds wealth beyond belief.
No.
I mean, we just brought on someone, we've saved, over 3 million their first year alone on their taxes. It's just, and they were shocked and didn't even realize that that could happen. That's $3 million you can immediately put to work, building your wealth more efficiently. Uh,
100%. If someone isn't paying attention to tax mitigation and they start with 3 million versus someone who is paying attention to tax mitigation and therefore they theoretically go from 3 million to 4 million, they both have the same rate of return, which is going to make more money. Well, obviously, the one who's cared about tax mitigation. And what
yes.
we as proactive tax planning means the world now, much more than it ever used to in our estimation. So that's interesting. You say it's number one. So
Yeah.
what are some thoughts?
The more and more I just see that. What in my own personal life, when I was paying millions of dollars in taxes in the early 2000s, and it just kept going up and up. I had the best guy in town, best CPA. And I was just every year I'd ask him, okay, great. You saved me. We did a 401k. We did another kind of retirement plan. We did it. It's like, oh, there's nothing else we can do. Nothing else we can do. Wait a second. But every year, my taxes just keep going up exponentially. And that's how they're designed. It's a progressive system. And nothing we can do. Nothing we can do. Well, really? I mean, something in my gut told me there's got to be something else I can do. And if you're not in this world like we are, what do a lot of people say? Well, how is it that those rich people aren't paying any taxes? Okay. And it's not because of what you hear politically. Oh, they're skirting the man, they're taking everybody and all of that. No, it's they're legally in zero tax brackets.
Mm-hmm.
And how is it that they're doing that? And so something in my gut as a business owner, and a lot of business owners we work with say, there's got to be something more. Well, that's advanced tax mitigation. That is basically essentially, and I say that word, I'll say essentially again, having to have a tax plan right alongside your business plan, your marketing plan, really kind of your life plan, your personal finance plan. And that's what really can exponentially grow your wealth over time by doing things. And we're not talking about doing, unethical things or things that are legal. Obviously, we're not talking about that. We're just doing things that are normally a lot of people just don't have access to unless they're in a family office
Mm-hmm.
or have access to like our network or the Hilton Financial Network. If you don't have access to that, you don't even know about that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the number one thing? I know you're going to say it depends because if you're a smart guy, you're going to say it depends. What's the number one thing most people don't realize that they're missing as far as a tax mitigation strategy? I know you're going to say it really depends, but just throw one idea that might add some value to someone with a whatever
Well,
$20 million network.
I'd say the number one thing is I come across, business owners all the time, even that have really big businesses that, have these kind of convoluted plans to save on taxes. Like one of the big things is, well, I'm just going to expense out a whole bunch of things at the end of the year and make my taxes less because I got to buy those things anyway. Well, that's not a tax plan.
Mhm.
That's just expensing out. So, probably just the number one thing is having a formalized plan with specific strategies. Everybody's different. I mean, there's tons of strategies. We have over 100 different strategies now. I'm sure you have a bunch of strategies too. So there's just having that formal plan and putting the plan together, putting those pieces of the puzzle and having those strategies set in place.
Yeah, I would say for me, my answer in general, probably the same as you, but because a plan is important. But a lot of our clients have a lot of risk
Mhm.
and don't realize that there's ways to move the risk off their shoulders. 831B, which is a captive insurance company, captive. I think those make a lot of sense because you could put away $2.8 million depending on the year, et cetera. You can put away a bunch and it's deductible, by the way. Generally speaking, talk to your tax advisor. But the nice thing is if you have a lot of risk, move it off your shoulders into another group's shoulders. You get the benefit of owning the entity and you don't have to pick up the earnings.
Strategies are great. Yeah.
It's the advanced strategies that people don't know about. Not just one
Yeah.
example that people should. Hey, wait a minute! I can put away whatever $2 million and it's tax deductible. I mean, there's
Sure.
so many benefits.
Well, there has to be access there. And how do you, that's like, Brad Hilton has been about that for years. It's like, how can we give more people access to these type of things that and it's been a little bit of challenge because there's barriers to entry on some of those things. Maybe there's minimums of half a million, a million, or whatever to even get involved with those type of or more or much more. Our challenge has been how do we structure it and how do we work with issuers or different folks providing different strategies and things like that. How do we structure it so we can do it at a more attainable level?
Mhm.
And so it's been fun, but it has been challenging at times, because so many of these strategies are built for the ultra wealthy. So anyway, that's, you're talking about challenges. That is a challenge that we've had, but it's a challenge we took on and a challenge we're passionate about.
Yeah. By the way, if you need any help, you can also reach us at vastsolutionsgroup.com. So, which reminds me, how does someone get a hold of you if they're interested in your services or the broader services of Hilton?
Sure. Just very simple. Go to our website, which is Hilton Wealth, hiltonwealth.com. If people would like my our latest book, which is called Hilton Wealth, How to Invest Like an American Dynasty, that I wrote with Brad Hilton, they can go to the website, order it on there, and we'll send a copy to them complimentary. And however they like to learn more about us, and we'd be happy to chat with them too. So
And once again, I'm assuming it's Hilton wealth, WEALTH.com.
you got it, HiltonWealth.com.
Hanging out with the money man. This has been good. Any last minute thoughts as we get ready to close up shop?
No, one thing that we're really push a lot is kind of teaching people how the wealthiest invest as opposed to most people kind of on the retail side. And one of the biggest things that I tell everyone is the wealthiest, believe it or not, focus on safety first. Because returns are just going to be there if you got good options available in front of you. So I tell everybody, focus on safety first, build a good foundation in a portfolio, and then you can add on things that are going to make the returns in your portfolio.
Mark, this has been good. I really appreciate it. I think the people out there can learn a thing or two, maybe even 1,000 things by getting a hold of you. I really appreciate it, Mark.
Well, I appreciate it too. Thanks for having me on.
Once again, this is Ken French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Thanks, everybody.